edition of Take Your Life Back with Grit and Grace. I'm Coach Jen Ingram.
And I'm Coach Leanne Bonnell. And tonight we are going to do something a little different because Jen happens to be the absolute genius expert on meal planning. And I am adult when it comes to meal planning. So I'm going to interview Jen and ask her all these questions. And hopefully by the end of the night, both you and I will be a little bit smarter on this meal planning thing so we can actually implement it and again, take back our lives and make it a little less greedy and a lot more graceful. So, Coach Jen.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do this. So tell me, how did you get started? Just give me the background of how you got started in this meal prep world. What did you do? Because I'm curious and I'm also adult.
Yeah. You know what? I started as simple as I could get it. I knew that my eating habits had to change. I knew that I was stopping at Starbucks every morning and I was getting a coffee and something else, a muffin, maybe nothing. But then, of course, I'd go into the office and there was always donuts or whatever. Sometimes I would bring in a pre-made protein shake, and I would have that. But then I'd have that and a couple donuts or whatever the case may be. And then, of course, lunchtime would come around and I was miserable at my job. And so the first thing I want to do is I just want to get out of the office. And so I would either go out to eat with friends or go through a drive-through, sit in my car, whatever it was. And then after work, what did I do? I would go home and basically snack and binge and graze on food and alcohol for several hours. And then I would pass out, get up in the morning, be sick to my stomach for like an hour, hoping I could get out of the house on time because I would be doubled over in stomach pains from whatever crap I ate the night before. And then I'd get up and I'd do the whole thing over again. So it started really simple. I knew I needed to stop going to Starbucks and getting my coffee there. Needed to just make more coffee at home.
Not only actually probably saved a boatload of money because 5 times 5 is 25 times 4 weeks. So you should probably save a good $100 a month minimum.
Oh yeah. Oh, easy. So yeah. So I started simple because I didn't really know what I was doing. I knew like a little bit, but I knew just even bringing my breakfast was going to be better than whatever I was doing. So I started with I had a coworker who luckily this coworker was super into weightlifting, blah, blah, blah. So I saw some of what he would bring to eat. And I'm like, okay, this guy, he knows what he's doing. I see what he's doing. And I would ask him, sometimes I'd see him eating pancakes. I'm like, how can you eat pancakes? And no offense, but like you look like you do, like what, like how? And he's like, they're protein pancakes. I'm like, tell me more. Right? Like, and so I kind of watched what he did and I was like, oh, well, I could make up a huge batch of protein pancakes on Sunday and I could bring pancakes to work. That's easy enough for me to do. And I could easily like have a couple protein pancakes, put some peanut butter in there, have a piece of fruit, of a banana or something, and throw that in a couple baggies, like Ziploc baggies. There's my breakfast. Like I'm done. Like I just started. What were the things that were simple that I could grab? And so that was kind of where that was exactly where I started. I would batch up just a bunch of stuff on a Sunday. I would make a bunch of protein pancakes. I would what else did I make? I would usually buy And even to this day, I don't chop vegetables. I don't chop fruit. I buy either a veggie tray or a fruit tray, a pre-cut, whatever, and I divide that out. And then that gets me whatever I need. And yes, it is slightly more expensive to do it that way. Absolutely true. You could be cheaper if you bought it and cut everything up yourself, but that's also a little more time. And then I tend to psych myself out of, well, I don't have time to prep it. And so then what happens if you don't prep, if you don't plan, then you're not going to succeed. You fail to prep, you prep to fail.
Ooh, I like that. That's really good.
Yeah. So that was the start, was I think was taking over the breakfast. I knew I needed to quit that habit and then work my way into lunch. It kind of was a slow progression, but I needed to start with the two that were costing me the most money, and that I tended to, well, I definitely tended to fail at dinner. But I knew that dinner could be made simple enough with my son, since I had to fix something for my son anyways, that I could accomplish dinner. It was breakfast and lunch that were my hardest.
So, what was the big turning point for you to realize that you had to kick the Starbucks habit and at least get on the right footing, the right path? Was it the nice looking weightlifter guy?
Right? No, we
Yeah.
this no, honestly, for me, I remember it well. For me, it was my career. I wasn't going in my career where I wanted. That made me feel like I wasn't where I wanted to be in my life. I wasn't where I wanted to be financially because I wasn't where I wanted to be in my career. I had just gone through my second restructure, um, which in where, I had lost my title, I had lost some pay. I was tired of feeling like everybody else was dictating my life. Everybody else, including food. Food was dictating my life, how I felt, because I would feel miserable. I mean, you start your morning out with some double espresso, something, 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 and you refill it with whatever free coffees at the office also. Before you know it, like, I'm just sick from the amount of caffeine by the time I get to lunch, but I'm also on that downhill spiral from the caffeine. And so what do I have to do? I have to go to lunch, and I got to get a Diet Dr. Pepper, a large Diet Dr. Pepper with whatever drive-through I go to. So I was sick of being on this cycle and feeling like everything and everyone was controlling me.
That that is that is very cool. Um, because if I may interject, that was not my experience. Because my experience had nothing to do with my career. It had everything to do with I was watching others in my family get diagnosed with diabetes, and I did not want that. I did not want that life. And so I had to scare myself. And since I love to ride horses and I wanted to be an active person in the horse community, things had to change. And it changed slowly. I did not have the hot, I'm assuming he was hot, weightlifter guy.
It's pretty good looking.
I have a pretty good looking trainer, but it wasn't as fast as I perceive your journey. Mine has been a 2-year journey, and it started with working out. So, so
It's been, I really kicked it off January, February 2017. And it took me, I've been maintaining this weight for a couple of years now. But it took me a couple years to get to my goal weight. And I'll talk more about that story about kind of a recent epiphany that I had regarding that journey. But yeah, we can go
Yeah.
on.
I remember when we first met and I told you to move your skinny ass. You kind of looked at me like,
I'm like,
nobody's ever
it's
said
not
that to
skinny.
me. And I'm like, it's smaller than mine. Move it out of the way. um, okay, so back to the food. God help us, anybody watching this. So okay, fast forward, your son, I mean, because I think most boys are less picky than girls. And he's probably, how old was he at the time that you changed your eating? Around 30?
Also 4 years. 13, 14. Mm-hmm.
So he's at that stage where he will eat anything that doesn't move. Because that's what 13-year-old boys do. They're in that growth spurt and they will put you into a second mortgage because of the food that they eat. So what do you feed a teenage boy who will eat anything that doesn't stand still, and a mom who is trying to correct past eating faux pas, we'll say, and how do you get that in a nice square dish in a lunch bag? How did you do all that? And yeah, just how did you do all that? We'll go there first.
So I like to think, I know that we're talking about meal prep, and so a lot of people are like, oh, meal prep, it's not for me. I tell people it's not just about prepping your meals to lose weight. It's not just about prepping your meals to save on money, because it will do that. It's not just about prepping meals to save time. It's not just about prepping meals to get your freedom back, your freedom from time, freedom of the anxiety, freedom of it all. It truly is about self growth, because it completely it requires you to change your environment, and we can delve into that a little bit more later. But it requires you to change who you're hanging around with, what your environment looks like, to set yourself up for success in the meals that you've prepped. It's so much bigger than just prepping your meals. That's just the teeny tiny little piece, but what you're really doing is you are setting yourself up for a complete growth and change as an individual. Um, so when that came to my son, it started out slow. It had to start with, I needed my triggers, my food triggers, out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that was anything I could quickly, easily grab and munch on. That was any kind of crackers. And a lot of people view some of these things I'm going to mention, people view them as healthy. Wheat thins, Triscuit, right? Well, they're kind of advertised like a whole grain, yada yada yada, and it's processed. It's processed food. It's full of carbs. There's no actual nutritional value. Um, and so I needed all those triggers out of the house. My son I used to go to Sam's Club, and we'd buy these giant soft pretzels that are in the freezer department.
Mm-hmm.
And they come with either salt or cinnamon sugar. And I mean, sometimes for dinner, I would sit there with a box of wine, and I'd have a couple of those soft pretzels. And then I'd have like a bunch of cheese. And then I'd have and I would just slowly graze all night. And then I'd open up the box of crackers. And it wasn't like I put the crackers in a bowl and ate a portioned amount. No, I grabbed the box. I sat down on the couch with the box. And then soon the box would be gone. When I say I was sick by the next morning, I mean, I was sick. Um, so how did I get my kids? So I first had to explain, okay, what are the ones that for you, because I recognized that change as a kid is going to be a little more difficult to understand.
Right.
So I kind of let him pick, like, what are your favorites that we can keep here, and then what are the ones that I got to get rid of. So we started there. I didn't focus so much on creating a big meal that both he and I could eat. I started my focus on what are some meals that I can still quickly, easily make for him or that he can make himself. And then I can slowly incorporate. And that actually ended up working very, very well. I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to have to make two meals. I get it. Um, but what started to happen was he watched me and he would watch what I would fix. And pretty soon he'd be like, I think I want to try that. And so it was not, there was no struggle necessary. There was no struggle of me getting us to adjust the things that we ate because it became curiosity. Well, what's mom eating? And I would fix things that we both enjoy. He really loves like any kind of like stir fry or teriyaki chicken, things like that. And so I would make like egg roll in a bowl. It's super easy, and he would see that.
And it's
Yeah,
so yummy. Yeah.
it's so yummy and it's so easy and cheap.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
And I
there's
mean, you can eat that. You can either eat on it for a couple days or, well, I mean, it's so good for you. You can eat the whole thing, the whole pot of it. And the only calories really are from the meat.
right. And I would use like a lean ground turkey. You can use like a pork sausage or something in that recipe if you want, but I usually used a lean ground turkey, and I could swap it out if I knew that I wanted to add a fat to my dinner. Then I would make like a peanut sauce to go on top.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Or if I needed carbs, I could add some brown rice. Like I could mix it up. Well, he started watching me eat these things. Sometimes it was just I would throw some chicken breasts on the Foreman grill. But he was like, "Well, I kind of want some chicken." Okay, great. There you go. That stopped the battle between child and parent. It stopped the panic, I think, for him as, oh my gosh, you suddenly want me to eat all these different things and you want me to try these different, I didn't have to deal with any of that. It became a curiosity.
You
Um,
also have a rule with him though, or you had a rule with him when he was a kid, 3 no thank you bites or 3 bites and a no thank you or something like that. And did that come into play at all with this new eating style that you were trying?
um, honestly, I didn't have to. By the time he was 13, 14, because I let him dictate and let it become his idea, I didn't have to do it. I just didn't have to do it. Even when I started playing with some recipes and I would make, like, I remember the first time I made roasted Brussels sprouts. And he's like, I don't like Brussels sprouts. I was like, okay,
With
well,
the
I'm going to fix
with your
it. I'll let you see what they look like. And of course, they were roasted in balsamic vinegar and garlic. And then he saw them and he was like, okay, those don't look anything like when I had at stepmom's house. I said, no, you probably had boiled or steamed at stepmom's. And he was like, well, I don't know, but these don't look anything like that. And then he said, these smell really good. I was like, they taste really good. And so after I had made them, a couple weeks in a row, because I batch prep a lot of veggies all at once. I put them on a sheet pan or whatever, throw them all in the oven. So after a couple of times of me doing that, he was like, okay, I think I'm willing to try those Brussels sprouts. And then he just tried them. I didn't force the issue any of those times. I just never, I let it be some curiosity. I asked him to try whatever vegetable I was having with, but sometimes, I mean, I didn't have to. Like when I made egg roll in a bowl, he was like, let me scarf this down.
That's just cool. Now, do you have any do you go to the same meals every week or do you mix it up? How do you meal prep, I guess? What are you meal prepping?
When I first started, I just kept it so basic and simple. I truly did. I grabbed a whole bunch of chicken breasts. I threw them on a large Foreman grill. So I had a bunch of chicken. I had a bunch of frozen vegetables. I had my fruit trays and veggie trays that I could do as snacks. Um, I kept it super simple. And so then I could play with, okay, well, today I'm going to have chicken with broccoli and rice and some soy sauce. I'm going to make it Asian. But another day, I might decide, okay, I'm going to have chicken with peppers and something else and make it more like a fajita style. Or I'm going to make a taco bowl or whatever it was. So I kept just super basic vegetables that I could then and protein that I could add seasoning or a sauce to. So then that way I felt like I was getting a variety of foods, but I'm sticking with some of the basic. My goal was that I had a green vegetable at every meal possible. And then excuse me. And then a protein, and then either a carb or a fat or both, depending on. Um, at first, I just made sure I always had a carb or fat, and then as I was almost a year into my journey. My trainer had recommended a plan where I minimize my carbs at dinner and add a fat at dinner. So I
Okay.
tried that for a while. Um, and so that would switch it up, but I always had the basic. So in other words, I would cook up a big batch of brown rice, a big batch of some sweet potatoes, and then I would either roast a bunch of vegetables. I take that back. I didn't figure that out until I was like 6 months in. I truly started with just small bags of frozen vegetables because I could put that in a bowl at work, throw it in the microwave, heat them up, put salt and pepper on them. Like I kept it just super simple. And then eventually I got to learning more about prepping and how I could really batch things in the oven, throw everything on sheet pans, throw it all in the oven, cook it all at once, and be done pretty quick. So that was, yeah, where I started was I kept it super just as simple as I could. You make friends with if you got a Foreman grill, if you're an air fryer person, if you're an Instapot person, or all of the above, um, make friends with those things and try to just keep it as basic as possible. I really liked the option of here's the foods I'm gonna cook. I'm pretty much always gonna have some eggs, turkey, chicken, fish. Like these are my lean proteins, some Greek yogurt or cottage cheese. Like, so here's my lean proteins. And then I can play with a vegetable, a carb and a fat, and then I can play with any kind of sauce. And I know I'm kind of throwing carbs and fats and proteins out. And if you're not used to what those are, we could have another conversation someday about what exactly does it mean to have a carb. Um, by the way, carbs are good for you.
Mm.
We're not talking about processed carbs here. We're not talking about the box of wheat thins. We're talking about rice, potatoes. By the way, white potatoes are not bad for you. They simply have different nutrients than the sweet potatoes.
My
But
trainer would agree.
well, they are still low fat.
Mhm.
They still provide about the same amount of calories and about the same amount of carbs. Um, do they contain different nutrients and vitamins? Yes. Can that impact other things in your health? Obviously. One could even argue that the sweet potatoes may raise your insulin at a different rate.
Right. Yeah.
But the point is, I think people hear carbs and they kind of freak out. Like, we're not talking about what you view as carbs. I wasn't eating a loaf of bread at my meal or whole box of wheat thins, whatever it was, or the super pretzel, or I don't even know. I can't even think of what other carbs I would eat. It was junk. I can assure you of that.
So you said that the wheat thins and the uh
Any kind of cracker. I was a cracker person.
was it the crunch?
Yes,
So
it was the
what did you replace the crunch with? Because I will tell you right now, I have been to Weight Watchers, I've been to Jenny Craig, I've done all those garbage diets, and in every single one of them, they're like, "Oh, all you want is the crunch. Just eat a carrot." And I will tell you right now, a carrot does not satisfy that cracker crunch. So, what did you do to get that satisfaction from a cracker crunch?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. And that was exactly what I was after. So I made sure that I had lots of snacks. And I'm saying snacks, but it was things that would crunch. I not only was a cruncher, but I was a dipper.
Ooh. Oh, oh,
So, in other words, when I would eat my crackers, it was nothing for me to sit there with a jar of peanut butter and have my crackers and dip my cracker in the peanut butter. And so I started figuring out an apple and peanut butter.
mhm.
Um, Veggies, I figured out that I could make my own like dip, like instead of buying ranch, I could take some Greek yogurt and put like the dry ranch seasoning in there if that was what I wanted, and dip that in some again, I would buy a veggie tray that had broccoli and cauliflower, peppers, all the things that gave me that big crunch, carrots. I also do almonds, excuse me. And so what that would do is it gave me that opportunity. I wanted to dip, I wanted the crunch. That got me that. And I have to tell you, I had to overpack to go to work. Like there were sometimes people would look at my lunch bag and they're like, "You're gonna eat all that?" And I'm like, maybe not, but I'm gonna have it in front of me readily available. I mean, you can't eat too much broccoli and cauliflower in a day.
Yes, but what it did do was keep you away from the vending machines and the
Right.
donuts and the garbage. So that was smart. That is very
Yeah.
smart. Very smart.
And I did the other thing that I also had a sweet tooth. So in the evenings, if I was still hungry after dinner, because again, I was so used to grazing for a long period of time, like sitting down to have a meal I was not accustomed to that. Then I would make a protein shake and I would use frozen fruit. I would get big bags of frozen fruit and I would use frozen fruit, and make a big frozen protein shake. And I would make it super, super thick so that I pretty much had to use a spoon. And so then that would take me a long time to eat and it was super filling. So I went to bed, I was full. I was full. And there's so many people who are like, oh, but if you eat that close to bed, you're not going to lose weight. But it's not true.
True.
You're looking at over 100-pound weight loss. And I'm here to tell you, I worked out in the evenings. I definitely ate before bed. Like all these myths that you hear of, oh no, you can't do it this way and you can't do it. Bullshit. Calories in, calories out.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I agree. I do try to cut off my eating though by 9 o'clock, if not earlier, because if I go to bed with a full stomach, I do feel like bleh in the morning. So, um, I guess just one more question. Um, since over 100 pounds gone in 5 years, um, what advice would you give to 5 years ago, Janelle, from 2021 Janelle? What advice would you give her, um, if you could, about the meal prepping and staying the course? Because I'm sure that there were some days where you were like, bag it, I'm done.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I allowed myself a cheat. Like on Thursdays, there was this amazing taco truck that came to my work on Thursdays. So I planned that. And this part of the story that we're not talking about, I was working with three different coaches at the time. I had three coaches.
Oh my God.
And this is what I tell my clients, and this is why I don't want you to have to hire three coaches, because I had a career coach, I had like a nutrition coach who really helped me focus on my meals and what I was eating, and then of course I had my coach at the gym. Sometimes he did have some strategic appointments that we could set to talk about nutrition, but it wasn't as heavy on the nutrition side. It was more about mindset and physical activity. So I had three coaches. So I did a couple weigh-ins a week for my first 4 months. I think I did two weigh-ins a week. And I know that seems excessive, and no, my focus wasn't on the scale, but what I had to do, it wasn't that I was going to go weigh myself. I had to talk to somebody. I had an appointment with somebody. And that forced me to say, okay, I met with this person on Monday. I'm going to meet with this person Thursday morning. I don't want to just disappoint that person. I don't want to have to tell that person I can't make it, that I'm such a loser, I can't show up. I don't want to have that conversation. So I'm going to show up. And I also don't want to have the conversation of them looking at the scale and going, rough week? What happened? I don't want to have that conversation. So yes, it sounds excessive, but it held me accountable. It wasn't about the scale. It was about the appointment that I had set with the coach to say, how was your week? How did you meal prep? What did you do? How do you feel? We would go through those things. And so on Thursdays, I did a weigh-in, purposely scheduled it Thursday morning because I knew we had taco truck Thursday at lunch. So then I would weigh in Thursday morning, get my taco truck as one of my cheat meals for lunch, because I knew everybody around me is going to get that taco truck. I'm telling you, it was the best damn taco truck in town. Everybody's going to get it. So I'm going to want it. So why, don't deprive yourself and don't feel guilty, and don't play that game. Just plan for it. I know on Thursday I'm going to want the taco truck. So on Wednesday, I'm going to have a solid day of 100% eating right, so that on Thursday, I'm going to bring my breakfast, I'm going to eat a good breakfast, and I'm going to get taco truck for lunch. Like, that's, 80-20 rule. This is life. I was learning, how do I incorporate those times when I'm going to want something outside of my meal prep. So what I would say to me starting many moons ago, what feels like forever ago, is a couple things. One, do not listen to those around you. They are not the experts. Get a coach. Talk to somebody who knows what they are talking about. Somebody who has experienced, not somebody who, no offense, not somebody who has been fit their whole life and never experienced this. And I know that that's difficult to hear or understand, but it makes a difference when somebody has explored your journey. Talk with somebody who knows what they're doing, who has experienced it before, who has sought out knowledge or expertise in that area. And that's who you should be taking your advice from. And the second part of that is just start somewhere. It doesn't matter if it's small. It doesn't matter if you think, I have to suddenly change every single thing that I eat. I have to suddenly work out 5 days a week. I didn't start there. That wasn't where I started. It started much smaller. Like I said, I incorporated some cheat meals into my week. I didn't start out working out right away, but I wish I would have started out sooner. I remember saying things like, I could go walk on my break at work, and that that's calories out. And I understood that that was burning calories if I would go walk outside on my breaks and my lunch. And the people around me were telling me things like, well, you're not really going to lose weight that way because you're not actually elevating your heart rate for more than however many minutes, and you're not getting your heart rate up to a certain whatever bullshit. It is calories in, calories out. And I wish I would have tuned them all out because they were not experts. And their advice of, well, it's not going to really do you any good to eat that because you would actually have to eat so much fat or so much bullshit. It I My first few months I didn't know. One of the things I would prep in addition to my protein pancakes was bacon. And I was like, I'm losing weight and I eat bacon every morning. I would take 2 or 3 strips of bacon. I had my protein pancakes with peanut butter. I was losing weight because it's calories in. It truly is calories in, calories. Now, eventually, as I started talking, once I identified a good coach and I started talking to somebody who was an expert in the field, I was like, okay, maybe the bacon's not the best thing. And yeah, protein pancakes are okay for sometimes, but let's add some eggs or some egg whites, or let's switch this up. Like I started learning more. I would say, so my best advice is stop listening to the noise. Stop with the keto and the no carbs and the diet thing. Stop with the noise of you have to spend 2 hours at the gym. That is actually stopping you from losing weight. 2 hours at the gym is the wrong way to do it. I'm telling you now. The other piece of that is surround yourself with those experts. Just stop listening to the noise. Surround yourself with the experts. Don't be afraid to start small. I don't care how small it may seem. Just taking action will build to another action and another action and another. And it builds the momentum and you go from there.
Imperfect action beats perfect procrastination each and every time.
Love that.
I know.
Yes.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing your story. What you said just totally resonated with me. Turn off the noise, get with the experts. And seriously, if they have not been either in the, as much as I hate to say this, if they have not been training people for 30 years and helping them through this journey or gone through this journey themselves or not certified by a certified coaching school, please don't go to them. My opinion is what it is. Opinions are like noses. Everybody has one. I clean that up for y'all. Understand this. The diet industry is designed so that you fail. What Jen is talking about tonight, she didn't go to Weight Watchers. She didn't go to Jenny Craig. She didn't go to any of those flim flam places. What she did was perfect. And she started off small. And I bet there was some trial and error in there that she did not talk about tonight. But you know what? She also had a supportive group of people that all started with that one guy who she reached out and said, help me. How do I do this? And he was like, sure, this is how you do it. And he was an expert in the field.
I mean, visible expert.
I mean, you will see my progression pictures. I've seen Jen post pictures of her. I didn't recognize her from 100 pounds ago. So you guys, in a shameless plug, hire a health coach, hire somebody who knows what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. We can direct you to trainers who work hand in glove with people, who will look at the nutrition and while my trainer does not weigh me because I looked at him and said, yeah, fat chance, big boy. What he does is he scrutinizes the food that I eat and put in my body. And over time, as Jen says, with small little tweaks, I have gone from eating crap to mostly organic and a lot of raw veggies. And
Yes.
if I go out to eat, I eat on whatever I get for 3 or 4 days because there's so much food. So I just
Yeah.
want to commend you for all the progress you've made. And you've done such a great job. And I don't know how you do it when you're not in your home environment, which is another conversation for another day. Uh,
Well, I actually think that that's a great topic that we'll have to talk about later is um, how, we're talking about meal prep, but it starts to get into who and what are you surrounding yourself with? Because you can prep all those meals all you want, but who and what you're surrounding yourself with is going to really determine, are you even going to eat those meal preps?
yeah, are you going to go nose diving into that big soft pretzel box with a box of wine next to you? It's all about choices, y'all.
Yeah.
And
All right.
and so tonight we come to a close. I am Coach Leanne,
And I'm Coach Jen.
and we are taking back our lives with grit and grace. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you